Hello, today is March 7th, 2023. Let me start by saying that I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Today's video is, naturally, it's about MMTLP and NextBridge Hydrocarbons. It's an update. And this video is entitled, What are the Odds? So in case you're not sure of what the stock symbol MMTLP and the private company NextBridge Hydrocarbons is, let me give you a quick recap. Finra created a whole bunch of fraudulent counterfeit shares in stock symbol MMTLP and caused further problems in the private company NextBridge Hydrocarbons. So let me start. On December 8th, 2022, according to Finra Data itself, there were 13.7 million shares of stock symbol MMTLP traded, of which 9.5 million shares were short sales. Okay, here's the Finra Data itself. As you can see, the short volume was about 9.5 million shares. Total volume, 13.7 million shares, okay? Now, a short sale is when shares are sold prior to being purchased. Most people will actually buy shares and then sell them at some point later on. Short sellers do the exact opposite. Short sellers sell shares that they don't own with the plan to buy them back at some later point in time. As a result, short sales have an effect of dilution, right? They will dilute shares until the shares are subsequently purchased because they've already been sold. Shares have been sold without yet being bought, okay? That's what short selling does. So Finra issued a U3 extraordinary event halt on December 9th, 2012, okay? And it's still in effect till now. Now, private company shares of NextBridge Hydrocarbons were supposed to be distributed to all MMTLP shareholders on December 14th, right? After which stock symbol MMTLP was supposed to be deleted and all short shares were supposed to be reconciled. Now, since you can't trade, since the shares were halted from the 9th to 12th, all the way up till now, right? And you can't trade those MMTLP shares, those short shares can never be reconciled, right? They haven't been bought back and they've been sold and they can never be bought back. So MMTLP shares that were sold but never purchased, I call those fraudulent counterfeit shares. Okay, and those shares exist thanks to Finra. So Finra created the fraudulent counterfeit shares by issuing the U3 halt and preventing the short sellers from ever buying those shares back. Okay, so as a result, those shares are now fraudulent and counterfeit, and they were made that way by Finra. Not only that, when you introduce fraudulent counterfeit shares into the market, you have now pushed down prices, right? Because those shares are fraudulent and counterfeit. So because Finra created the fraudulent counterfeit shares, they are now a price manipulator. They've manipulated prices downward. Okay, they knew what they were doing when they created the fraudulent counterfeit shares, and they went ahead and did it, right? So thank you, Finra, for being a price manipulator. Next, Finra also prevented every single MMTLP shareholder from receiving the one-to-one dividend of the private company NextBridge Hydrocarbons. Okay, Finra knew all about the spin out of the private company, and that Finra knew that there were 165 million shares that were initially issued prior to these fraudulent counterfeit shares entering the market, and Metamaterials distributed all those 165 million shares to the transfer agent AST, who provided those shares to the broker-dealers. However, the broker-dealers had a lot more than 165 million shares. That was the number of shares that were issued, thanks to Finra creating fraudulent counterfeit shares. Broker-dealers cannot distribute shares to shareholders because that would mean that some shareholders would get shares while others would not. And they cannot pick and choose who gets shares because then they'd be held liable, right? So, thank you, Finra. That's what Finra did. They created fraudulent counterfeit shares, they manipulated prices, and they prevented the distribution of the private company NextBridge Hydrocarbons. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, gee, this is a complex situation. It's hard to deal with, whatever. That's what Finra did. This is what they should have done. What Finra should have done is they should have instructed broker-dealers of a corporate action that shorts must close their positions by December 12th, 2022, right? They should have informed broker-dealers that between December 9th to 12th, all trading in MMTLP should be position close only. What that means is that longs, those are people who purchase shares, should be able to sell those shares to shorts. And shorts, the people who already sold shares that they didn't own, they should be able to buy those shares back to reconcile their positions, right? And if they didn't buy it back by December 12th, 2022, they should be a forced close at that point, right? And that would reconcile all the shares which were already sold to buyers, right? But never purchased, right? So these shares became fraudulent counterfeit shares, and they would never have become fraudulent counterfeit shares if FINRA performed these two corporate actions. FINRA knew about going to position close only. It's very standard. They knew about forcing shorts to close their positions, and they did not do it. What stock symbol MMTLP and Nextbridge Hydrocarbons was, in case you did not know. So we're going to go on with the rest of current events, or semi-current events. So over the weekend, I noticed that my broker is Fidelity, and I noticed that my cost basis suddenly jumped to something like $2.99 for Fidelity. But worst, it became short-term instead of long-term. It said, Fidelity is saying that I purchased Nextbridge Hydrocarbon shares, or I acquired them on 12/29 in a short-term transaction. But I did not go out of my way to buy Nextbridge Hydrocarbon shares. I purchased MMTLP shares over a long period of time, and I have both long and short-term transactions as far as capital gains are concerned. These have been reduced now to short-term, and it was purchased at various different purchase prices over time. And as we see, the average purchase price was about $1.40. But now my cost basis reads $2.99. Over the weekend, this was the case. It reads $2.99, and everything is classified as short-term, which would be a much larger tax hit. Should I ever cash out, or should I ever be able to cash out? But Fidelity did update this. Now they say my cost basis is 0, which means I'd have to pay even more. And they say everything is short-term. So short-term basically means you don't get long-term capital gains tax rates. I have owned these shares, which are which represent the company, for over a year. So I believe everything should be classified as long-term, and I believe that I'm not the only one who believes this. There are 65,000 of you out there, and a lot of people have their shares in Fidelity, and so Fidelity is getting a lot of calls. So they have apparently updated their Twitter response, and they said the corporate action exchanging metamaterial Series A preferred shares, MMTLP, to Nextbridge Hydrocarbons is considered a taxable event, they said. No clear fair market value price for tax reporting purposes has been established or announced by Meta. And then they go on and on and on. To which the best response is by copy paste, who says the SEC says it's not a taxable event as of yesterday, and AST says the majority of us at Fidelity never received our Nextbridge Hydrocarbon shares. Stop assuming that we're all stupid. I'm working with my state attorney general on this, and you are their target. So naturally, when someone says, "Hey, look, can you prove that the SEC said that?" Well, he says, "I called. The SEC said the issuance of Nextbridge Hydrocarbons is a tax-free event, not tax-free if you sell the shares. However, this is information that we've known for over 4 months. Fidelity is playing stupid. Many lawyers and IRS agents own Fidelity, so Fidelity, stop mistreating us before court." Okay, and so that's basically what's going on lately. I expect this will be resolved soon at some point, and because tax time is coming up. Interestingly enough, I live in California, and I'm told that as far as federal income tax and state income tax is, that California is a disaster area for a variety of reasons, a lot of which are being attributed to cold weather, and that our tax deadline may be moved to October timeframe. I'm not sure if that applies to me or not. I think it does, but I'll be checking this out. This may apply to you if you live in California. Just FYI. So with that, I wanted to do a video about some math. So I figured, it's been a while. We might as well do some math videos, right? Let's talk about math. So with that, let's take a coin and let's see what happens if we flip a coin, right? I happen to be taking a gold American Eagle coin here in this case, which has the heads has a standing liberty. So that's the image of standing liberty on the heads. The tail side is, of course, the head of the bald eagle. So if you flip a coin, it can come up either heads or tails, right? The chances of coming up heads is about 1 out of 2 or 50%, right? It's a 1 in 2 chance, also known as a 50% odds, right? And basically, if you flip a coin, it's the same as saying, look, I don't know which way something might happen. Let's just flip a coin and see what happens, right? So a lot of times people like to use coin flips because, they don't have a lot of information. And, in general, if you flip a coin, you can have an idea of whether the answer is yes or no, which way things might go, right? A lot of people use coin flips as an element of probability, let's just say. So if you flip a coin, it can come up heads, meaning you can win, let's say, or it can come up tails, meaning you could lose, okay? What happens if you flip it twice? Flip it twice, well, the first flip could, of course, come up heads or tails, but so could the second flip, right? So you got, a bunch of possibilities here. That's just flipping a coin twice, right? So what's the chance of it coming up heads twice if you flip it twice, right? So that's a basic question. Well, on the first flip, it could come up heads, and on the second flip, you could come up heads, right? That's one possible outcome. Or it could come up heads in the first flip and tails on the second flip, right? Suppose it comes up tails on the first flip. It might come up heads on the second flip. Or it might come up tails and tails. You might not get heads at all, right? So these are the possible outcomes, right? So there are 4 possibilities. And the chances of it coming up heads twice is 1 in 4, or 25% odds, right? That's basically what we call it. This is, interestingly enough, the same chance as of it coming up tails twice in a row, right? You got a 1 in 4 chance, 25% odds, right? But what are the chances of it coming up heads even once? Well, the chances of seeing any heads, you got 3 possibilities of it showing up as any heads, right? That's a 75% chance, or 3 chances out of 4. Something to take note of. And that's if we flip it twice. We got a pretty good odds that it's going to come up heads at least once, right? Let's flip a coin 3 times, right? Now you got 8 possibilities, right? You got a 1 chance in 8 that it could come up heads all the time. You got 1 chance in 8 it could come up tails all the time, so it could never come up so it could never come up heads. Both of those are about a 12.5% chance, right? 1 chance out of 8. 1 divided by 8 is 12, okay? Now, what are the chances that you might see any heads during those 3 coin tosses? Well, you got 7 chances out of 8. That's 87.5%. It's pretty good odds that you would see, heads during those, 1 out of 3 coin flips, right? Pretty good odds. So, with that, I wanted to switch over to lawsuits, right? Because we have 3 lawsuits actually going on. We have a lawsuit in Florida with Rosa Twill. We have a lawsuit in California with with Richard Hoffman, and we have another lawsuit in Washington State with Alan Hensley, right? So we have 3 lawsuits going on, kind of like 3 coin tosses, right? So let's take these coin tosses and let's imagine, instead of tossing a coin, that it becomes the chance that we might win in a lawsuit, right? Now we got 3 MMTLP court-related cases, right? You could win or you could lose in either one, right? You got Rosa Twill, Richard Hoffman, and Alan Hensley, or Elaine Hensley, and it turns out that we have a pretty good chance of winning one of them. You may only have a 50-50 odds of winning any of them, let's just say. But the chance to win any of them, you got an 87.5% odds of that. That's not bad. It's really not bad, right? Because you got 3 lawsuits going on all at the same time. So if you were on Finra's side, or the other side of this case, you would have to win every single lawsuit in order to prevent your downfall. Okay, so pretty good odds, 87.5% chance, right? But we also have congressional investigations going on at the same time, right? How do we know we have congressional investigations? Because of this tweet by John Berta. He says, FINRA is stonewalling Congress because of the lawsuits. You can only assume this is Rose's and Richard's lawsuit, possibly Elaine's. Keep up the pressure. If they're stonewalling Congress, that means FINRA is before Congress. It means Congress is interested, okay? Basically, I was imagining, that, you might see an exchange like this before the congressional, committee. They'll probably throw FINRA a softball question or something like that. Say, hey, what can you tell us about the, the U3 halt and MMTLP? What's your story here? And FINRA says, we actually have 3 active lawsuits, so I can't really discuss this. I can't really respond, right? And Congress would say at that point, it'd be like, wait a minute, you're actually pleading the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination, that you don't want to talk about this because you got 3 lawsuits going on? Are you sure you want to take that route? The FINRA representative is like, yes. That's all we can say. Not only do we have Congress being interested and involved, we have Flamethrower. Flamethrower is John Berta and 3 other OG Torch shareholders. And why is Flamethrower important? Because Flamethrower is funding Share Intel. Share Intel is getting the statistics and information together to stop abusive short selling. They're actually finding out, they're getting all the sales together to find out what the current short position is, who has naked shorted, how long they've naked shorted for, what is going on. Share Intel can provide that information. Not only is Flamethrower looking at that, of course, Flamethrower is also looking at Warsaw. They've also hooked up with Christian Levine and Warsaw Bernstein. Who are they? Christian Levine has been, he's a famous lawyer who's been attacking short sellers for a long time, successfully, I might add. And Warsaw Bernstein is in New York City. And why New York City is important is because a lot of this is financial stuff, and a lot of financial litigation takes place in the Southern District of New York, SDNY, right? And because that's where Wall Street is, right? So as a result, we got not just 3 lawsuits. We've got the congressional stuff going on. That adds another element in there. And we've got Flamethrower. That adds another element in there. So we got 5 things in the pot right now. Not only are there 5 possible things happening, we have CEO block happening, right? CEO block. What is CEO block? CEO block is a bunch of CEOs who decided to get together and they said, our companies are being short sold like crazy. Let's get together. Let's exchange ideas. Let's talk to each other. Let's figure out how we can effectively combat the short sellers and these naked short sellers. So there's a lot of stuff happening there right now. And not only do we have that, we have one additional thing. And that one additional thing is you. We have 65,000 plus shareholders. You guys are smart, you're intelligent, you're coherent, okay? And you're continuing to bring to attention the fact about the FINRA U3 halt, the massive short positions that are out there, the brokerages that have failed to deliver, the private company shares, which we are supposed to get as a dividend, right? The FINRA's collusion with possible short sellers. You guys have investigated the whole thing. And not only that, you're letting people know about it. You're basically standing outside the casino, protesting and letting people know that, hey, the casino's rigged. So do you think the casino owners like that? Probably not, okay? You guys also protested outside the SEC, you write letters to Congress, and you're on social media platforms. All of this adds up. All of this is really, really important. So with that, we got all these things happening at once. I'm feeling pretty good because, I know I've been saying for a long time that, I expect things to work in our favor. And I expect it to happen any time now, because the longer this goes on, the worse the situation is for them, right? We're owed these shares. They can't deliver the shares, right? And quite frankly, the longer it goes on, the worse it looks for them, and the worse the situation becomes for them. It's in their best interest, really, to solve this as soon as possible. I really believe that. And I believe that, things will get sorted out at sometime soon. So I've been saying that for a while, and this is why I've been saying it for a while. The odds really are in our favor. So with that, I just wanted to say that I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. It is March 7th, 2023 at the time that I'm making this video. Thank you and goodbye.